Hello, everybody. How are you doing? This is S. Anthony Thomas. This is the S. Anthony Thomas Show, and my guest this week is an old friend of mine, a comic by the name of Mary Frances Connelly. We started out roughly the same time in Philly back in the mid-'80s. This is a great episode. You're going to love this. Not only do we find out some interesting things about her, but we literally trade stories of our worst gigs ever. And I mean worst ever. Trust me, worst ever. You're going to love it. In addition to that, we talk about what it was like for her to be a comic back in the mid-'80s. We talk about the comedy boom, and we talk about why she actually started doing comedy, and it's not what you think. It's not what you think. So folks, are you ready? I am. You are too? Cool. Let's do it.
Hello?
Well, hello to you.
How are you?
I'm doing quite well, Mary Fran. How are you doing?
I'm excellent.
Well, you have just entered, you know where. You have just entered your friend's show, the S. Anthony Thomas Show. How are you doing?
I am doing so good, and I'm so excited to be doing your show.
Got you fooled. Well, everybody, this is Mary Frances Connelly, a friend of mine for a long period of time. We haven't seen each other in a while.
In a long time.
That's what happened.
I see you on Facebook, so
yeah.
I feel like I see you all the time.
That's the funny thing, is just that it's one of those weird things where normally you'd run around and you'd try to make sure that you move things to see people that you know and that you love and that you like and that you enjoy and all those kind of things. But Facebook keeps you just attached enough.
Yeah. It keeps you current. Yeah.
So,
current. Yeah.
It keeps you just attached enough, because it's really weird because everybody listening, this is my friend Mary Frances Connelly, very funny comic. I've known her for, I think we've known each other 715 years.
It's at least 715. Yes. How
715 years. Right?
Stand-up? How long have you been doing stand-up?
I started in January 8th, 1986.
So I was a year older than you. I was April 23rd, 1985. It was my anniversary.
Yeah. And it's an interesting thing because we both started in what people call what part of the comedy boom was that? Were we in the middle of the comedy boom?
Oh, the heart. It was the heart of it. It was amazing.
And it's hard to explain to people just how many clubs there actually were. I shouldn't say clubs, places that had comics talk to drunk people.
I used to say that Wanenmakers was going to start having us in the dressing rooms.
You know what? That's the only place we didn't play.
Yeah. Yeah, it was amazing. I mean, I worked at a bowling alley. I mean, everywhere.
You know what's funny?
What?
You're going to reference the places that you worked, and you and I both know I was probably there the week after you were there. Because we both started out in the Philadelphia area. You know what's really cool though is I see there's a lot of comics, not a lady comics, now finally getting some of the shine that they didn't get when we started.
Yes. When I started, it was just Chris Rich, Tracy Skeen, and me. We were the only three women.
And it was, because I felt bad about that, because obviously at 17 there was nothing I could do about it. But it was just so weird. I'm sitting there going, why is this so difficult?
Yeah.
I mean, I always thought every time you picked up the mic and you went on stage, you took care of business.
Right. Thank you.
So if someone goes on stage and kills regularly, what's the problem?
Problem is attitude in the audience. They think that women aren't funny. That's how it was.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, for those of you listening, in the 80s, the things that people are getting canceled for now, like the ridiculously over the top dismissal of ladies. It's good that you can't get away with it now, and I'm glad about that. But back then, I mean, I literally remember being on a show, and I apologize for my language to you and to the audience when I say this, where a lady's on the stage, she's doing a great show, and everything's going fine, and then they say, "Show us your," and refer to
your tatas,
the chest area.
Yes. Oh yeah, I had it done.
And I'm like, they got you. How many? They probably gave it to you. They probably gave it to you like 8,000 times.
Yep, all the time, routine. I used to say that when Anita Hill had the hearing, the Clarence Thomas hearings, I was like, that's all they said to her. It was like so mild compared to the kinds of stuff that myself and other women had to face. It was awful.
Mm-hmm.
You were always
And
kind.
I don't know.
You were always.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I was. I don't want to brag, everybody, but I was woke.
You were woke. You were woke. We didn't know what woke was, but you were woke.
I was woke at 17, so
Yeah.
I'm just trying to say that.
It's your generation. That's why I date younger guys, because of their attitude. That was exactly why.
That's why that's why you dated younger guys. You gonna really?
Still do. I mean, I used to be a cougar, but now I'm so old, I'm a saber tooth.
I'm just trying to say, I'm trying to get you to admit in front of these people that is not the only reason you date younger guys.
No, it's not the only reason. They look good. I mean, dear God, I'm not an idiot. I am shallow.
Now, this is something that's really weird because I've had some friends on the show before, and I had Big Daddy Graham on the show earlier in my first series of interviews, and I've known him virtually the same amount of time that I knew you, and I thought I knew everything about the guy, and I did know 85%. But what I didn't know, and I was always curious about this because when you do what we do, it takes it takes something to push some. Listen, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to have my finances and my life dictated on me coming up with ideas, writing them down, memorizing them, and then standing on the stage in front of a bunch of people and having them judge them. And that's how I'm going to make my living.
It's a little crazy.
I just want to do that. So I know what made me go up there. But what made you? What is the Mary Fran origin story?
The MF origin story is very simple. I got into show business to get off welfare.
That's going to be a short movie.
I had a wonderful, and still do have a wonderful daughter, and we were very poor. It was just the two of us. Her dad was not involved by his choice. And I knew I needed to make a living, and I needed to make a man's wage to support a family. And I thought, I knew I was funny. I knew I could make guys laugh, because I used to, on the way to Cardinal O'Hara High School, at the back of the bus, I would sit doing Bill Cosby albums, imitating Bill Cosby albums for all my friends, and the guys loved it. So I knew I was funny. So it was either that or learn something like refrigeration repair, which you could do through the state. So it was one or the other. And I saw that comedy was the coming thing. And that's what made me do it. I did not do it out of love. A lot of comics do it because they just have to be on stage. That's not me. I'm a comedy slut. I got into it for money.
Yes, I have to admit, have you ever seen that movie Fame with Coke, where the guy makes Coco take her shirt off?
No, I actually never saw it.
It's like an exploit. It's like, go ahead, Coco, take your shirt off. That's what you feel like in comedy when you go on stage.
Oh,
and I don't want to laugh at that scene because it was a dramatic scene, but it's such a tough thing to do.
Yes, it is. I was so scared. I didn't know that comics actually enjoyed stand-up. I thought it was as torturous for all of them as it was for me. And oh man, I think it was about 4 months of going twice a week to do open mics before I actually had a good time on stage. And it used to, because what comics say to one another before they go on, we don't say break a leg, we say have fun. And I thought that was ridiculous. It was the opposite of what I was feeling. I was terrified.
What I would say to the audience is, if for those of you, I don't know whatever country, it doesn't matter what country you're listening into, and it doesn't matter if you're in Indian, whatever. If you pick up that microphone, just realize the first year of stand-up comedy is very similar to the first 21 days of working out if you've never
Oh,
worked
that's
out.
really smart. That is very well said.
Thank you. I mean, because it's like people will lie to you. I remember when I saw. You remember the movie
Yes,
Punchline?
vividly.
Okay. Now, do you remember how Sally Field was on stage bombing, and then Tom Hanks waved his finger as if to go keep going, and then all of a sudden she started
Yes.
killing? It does not work that way,
That
everybody.
movie was a fantasy. That was a Disney story.
I went to see that movie with a mutual friend who's no longer with us, Fred
Oh, I
Novak,
remember Fred.
and we were the only two comics in the
Yeah.
building. And during the dramatic scene where Tom Hanks is crying because his father's in the
Yeah.
audience, we're hearing everyone, oh yes, they're all sympathetic. Fred and I are literally laughing hysterically. We're sitting there going, we're professional comics. We've had beer bottles
Yeah.
thrown at us. Uh,
Yeah.
and he's crying because his dad showed up.
There's no
Oh,
tears. There's no crying in comedy.
it was just really weird. But that first year is so tough, and I think that when you move to different cities, and this is something I want to find out because you played a lot of different places in a lot of different
Yeah.
states and things of that nature. I want to see if you agree with this, if you have the same experience. I started out at the Comedy Works in Philadelphia, which was more of a white collar club. I went over to the Comedy Factory Outlet, which is down the street, which is more of a blue collar club. And they literally, you had about 12 seconds.
That's Philly.
To prove to them that you were funny or they were going to destroy
You will have
you.
your skin removed. It's Philadelphia. It's the toughest audience, but it's the best.
Right.
It creates comic.
And so when you go any place else, it's easy.
Yeah. Except, now let me tell you where it wasn't. Sometimes for me, being an Irish girl from Philadelphia, in Philly, I cut up guys. I make fun of guys because that's what we do. But when I would leave here and do that, the audience could be a little bit afraid of me. And I had to learn to tone it down a little bit. But the Philadelphia audience is the best training ground for stand-up comedy.
I think that's the thing. That's another thing that I didn't think was actually fair to the comics who were ladies, is that a guy could just lace into anybody, and the moment you moved out of what they considered the box you're supposed to be in because you're a lady, sometimes in some places they kind of sit back a little bit, and then you'd have to bring them back again. It was like spinning plates on the Ed Sullivan show.
Really was. Not so much in Philly. In Philly, I feel a freedom that I don't feel anywhere else. But even Baltimore, which is so close by, Charm City is very close by. But I can remember working at Fells Point at a club, and I'm like in the midst of my set, because in the beginning of my set, I used to talk to the audience for about 10 minutes. And they were scared. I mean, they were literally pulling back a little bit. And I was like, okay, I've got to tone this down.
That is just one of the weirdest things. Now, what? And so you started it out of necessity.
Yes, I totally.
Now, was there a part that, because we're both 3 decades and change in now, at what point, I mean, did you ever get that? Because you said that you started out of love, you started out of necessity, and because, I mean, essentially you knew you had the talent, and you decided to apply it, even though the specific vocation wasn't what you wanted. But was there a part where you started to go, you know what, I
Yes.
actually do like
Yes,
this?
very much so. First of all, it's really cool being able to do something that very few people can do and many, many people want to do. So there's that ego portion. Yeah, most definitely. And I came out from the theater. That was my background. I had been at Hedgerow Theater, which is a semi-professional troupe. Now it may be professional in the Philadelphia suburbs. And so I had years of experience performing. I had a singing coach from when I was 11, and my first performance at Hedgerow, I was 16, and I was stage manager at 16. Um, so I had a lot of experience behind me. So I shouldn't just say I took the stage as a stand-up comic cold. I didn't. I did have years of performing experience before I got up there at the age of 35. Half my
Let's not gloss over the stage manager at
Yeah, that was
16.
amazing. That was another education that was utterly incredible. It was amazing.
How did this come about? Most people don't. Most of the time, you don't have the word manager and 16 in the same sentences,
I,
unless there was like, don't
yeah,
let the 16-year-old be the
I
manager.
looked a lot older. I looked 10 years older than I was. I've never looked my age. So it's nice now I look 10 years younger than I looked 10 years older. So I've always been very lucky with that, with my map, as we call it. The Irish, their face is your map. Um, and I was
Mm,
close to this guy who was a director of, I was involved with the Glass Menagerie, and he was like my best buddy. And he was like in his 30s. He had been in the movie The Blob. He played the sheriff. He and
mm,
Steve McQueen started out at the same time in show business in the film The Blob, which was shot in Downingtown and Phoenixville, two Philadelphia
mm,
suburbs. And he made me the stage manager and the understudy for Laura, the young female lead in the play. And I did pretty well at it. I really loved it, and I was very serious and got the job done. And then I was stage manager for a French play by Jean-Paul Sartre, The Balcony. I know this is not normally what comedians talk about, Jean-Paul Sartre, but that was my back.
uh, this one
Yeah,
does,
that
but go ahead.
sequel. Well, that's another Philly thing, and people are pretty well read when they're from the Philadelphia audience. I swear is brighter. That's another thing. I'd like to know why it's just such a different experience. They catch the subtlest lines. It's fascinating, and it doesn't matter whether it's a working class, a middle class, whatever, country club audience. There's a similarity. It's fascinating. Did you found that?
Yeah, I think that a lot of the times what I noticed was there was a and people, I don't think people get this, but you have a blue collar, they think that you don't have
They think that
intellectual
it's ridiculous.
curiosity, which is
Ridiculous.
not the case. you know, and because you'll see people when people saw the books. I
Me
didn't
either.
attend college, right? But when people see the books that I have, they go,
Yeah, same here.
"What?"
They're always like, "Did you actually read all those?" And I'm like, "Yeah, and 10 times that." Yeah, that's my.
you know. Well, no, but the thing I've noticed also is that part of what part of the job that we have is we
Yeah.
have to know things, you know, because we were essentially, we're kind of like the idea equivalent of a food processor, you know, you know, you know, because we have to know so much to put in the ingredients to push that button in our
Yeah.
brain called "I'm a comedian," and then create this gumbo, and that's why I always thought I was really fortunate to start here.
Mhm.
Well, I'm not in New Jersey now, but you
Yeah,
mean
but
I'm
that's
down in
still
Philly.
Philly.
But um, I'll say here anyway, because in this mental experience, in this mental experiment that we're having right now, I'm in Philadelphia. So you know, so for the mental experiment, I'm in Philadelphia. But it's very because I mean, first of
Yeah,
all, I met a lot of good people. I mean, we had a good group of people, talented and
very
surprisingly
generous.
supportive.
Very, very generous.
It's because I went to a few other areas. I'm not going to name them, mainly because I
Yeah.
have listeners in those specific areas. So those areas are incredible. Uh, yeah. And in fact, everyone in those specific cities are very good looking and talented and brilliant people. I'm sucking up to the crowd.
But it's all game
Uh,
ball.
but when you would
Yeah.
go to a different city, yeah, I mean, when you when you go to a different city, I'm not. I'll just say on the
Yeah.
west
Oh,
side of the
wow.
country, and I would go places, and good lord, the first half of the week they're looking at, look at this guy
Yeah.
from Philadelphia, look at him, he's sick. By Friday, hey buddy, I'm going. Can't you
Yeah.
just be nice when I get here? We never did that to anybody that
No,
came with the Philly jersey. If we thought you
yeah.
were funny, we were funny. We were
Yeah.
nice to you. We
It
didn't
was
care.
uh it was a collegial atmosphere. It was wonderful.
Hmm. Which means we got drunk. Which means we like to
At the
get you drunk and
Society
throw you in
Hall,
the water
listening to Ted. What was his name?
as we put mashed potatoes in our mouths and punch our cheeks like John Belushi when you when you come.
Man, we had a lot of fun. Oh, it was so great.
Yeah, it was kind of cool. But I just got what I really got a kick out of was the bars, the bar gigs, and those
Yeah.
really weird gigs where they would pay you in cash. And I just want to say for the record, when Mary and Fran and I would play these particular bars, they did pay in cash, but every bit of taxes was paid
Every
on
nickel.
every
Every nickel.
single one of those gigs.
Some of those gigs. Oh, oh, those
Every
gigs,
single
those
penny.
places. Oh, some of those bars. Oh man. And my brother was a priest, and he was always a wreck that I would get beaten up. And I'd say, first of all, they're not that stupid to throw a punch at me because God knows what I would do to them. But he was always like, but you say things on stage they
Hmm.
may not agree with. But I never had a problem. Well, now,
Yeah, what people don't understand is you don't want to just like try to
no,
beat somebody from
you'd have to
Philadelphia
be
up.
stupid.
That's really not a good idea. So, you know, and this is what I got to ask you. This is good because we played a lot of the same places in a lot of the same areas, especially since we started
Right.
roughly around the same time. I know you gotta. Can you remember after all these years? Everybody tends to have at least 2 to 5 hell gigs that are burned into their
Oh, before
cerebellum.
all I had to hear was you saying hell, and I'm thinking Stone Balloon, Newark, Delaware. I was doing stand up maybe 8 months, 10 months, and
Oh God, no.
it was a 3-man show. I was to be the MC. I was making $75, which was a lot of money at at that level.
That's a ton of
And the MC, the middle
yes.
did not show up. He just didn't show up. So it was me and the headliner. Now the show is to be 90 minutes long. If I bail, that means that comic has to fill in the 30 minutes that the middle isn't there. Because generally, so your listeners know, the way it works, the MC does 20, the middle does 30, and the closer does roughly 45 or so. And it equals out to around 90 minutes. I know that isn't 90, but whatever. Bear with me. So I had to do
Hmm.
my time and preferably into, as far past 30 as I could go. And I certainly I had 30 minutes of material at that point. The audience started screaming, chanting. The 300 people in the audience started chanting, "Get the F off the stage." And I just reached into my pocket. I had been paid up front, which I normally don't like to do because I'm very superstitious. And I just kept touching the money and kept going on. And I did 35 minutes so that the closing act wouldn't have to fill all that time. And I came off the stage and no one would look at me in the audience. They just wouldn't look at me. They knew what they had done was horrible. And it was the most like it was like a bunch of Nazis is how it felt like this is what it feels like to be at Nuremberg is what is as all I could think of was this chanting audience, 300
Yes.
against 1. It was awful. And then I went back about 6 months later and I did very well because I had to go back. I couldn't just never go back.
Oh, every place
You
that
have
kicked
to.
me in the groin, I went right back and
You
smoked
have
that
to, or
place
you're
a
not.
few times in a row.
Yeah.
You know, it's like it's like it's like it was one of those things where I'll get to my health story in a second. It's like when you watch. It's like I remember in high school, there
Yeah.
were these guys that were way bigger than me, and one tried to beat me up all the time. And I ran into him as a 35-year-old man, and now he's like 2 inches taller than me. And 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 he walks up to me, and he looks guilty as heck, and I'm going, and he goes, hey man. I shook his hand. I was like,
Wow.
dude, that was 20 years
Wow.
ago. Like, it's okay. We were good. And he goes, sorry, and he hugged me. And I'm like, I'm so sorry. I said,
See,
once again,
that's
dude,
what
it's 20 years ago. Don't worry about
yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And because
Wow.
but that thing right there, that it's hard to explain because it's very similar to when wrestling finally admitted that it was
Yes.
sports entertainment. So back in the day when the person was a bad guy in wrestling, people hated them in real life, not realizing it was an act. When you go on stage, it's almost like the moment you step on stage, you're this thing that resembles a human, but isn't one. And then you step off stage, and we're like, oh, we
Yeah.
were yelling at
Yeah.
that thing that looked like a human.
Oh
Oh,
man. Tell me your hell gig story.
oh, I was doing a gig in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. We pull into the place. They're already
Oh.
stomping each other in the parking lot. They're fighting in the parking lot. We go into the club. The guy, there's, there are people, there's a
Oh.
couple having
Oh
sex on the
no.
pool table in the back.
Mother of God. Oh.
I mean, and we're looking like no one's going to stop this. No, 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 leave him alone. Because he knew not to mess with him because he was the group that guy was with was part of the group
Oh.
of people that was outside stomping each other in the parking lot. So he didn't want to do anything. Like he's
Oh.
like, that's out there. We're in here. Don't worry about it. We go on stage. My MC, she starts to do her act. A bag of ice
Oh, mother
flies
of
up and
God.
bounces
Oh
off her
my
forehead.
word.
She runs off the stage, and I'm like, "Look, man, I'm just listen. If you guys don't do the show, you don't
Oh.
get paid." And she goes, just do it, so we can get out of here." And I'm like, "I'll end this." I said, "I'll cut this down. That was bull." She said, "No, just do it." My feature goes on stage. 5 minutes in, he gets hit in the head
Are
with
you
a bag of ice. So they've
No.
done 10 minutes. They've done 10 minutes. I go on stage now because they had run
Oh.
off the stage. They had broken the microphone. So the only microphone left is the one
Oh,
in the
this is the
DJ booth.
worst story I've ever heard. Oh.
So I'm leaning my back to the DJ booth. The DJ booth looks at
You
me
got
like,
the
"You
money.
still doing it?" And I'm like, "Hey, yeah." He hands me the microphone, which, yeah, the microphone goes about, I don't know,
Oh.
7 to 8 inches outside of the DJ booth. I have to introduce myself because, well, I have the
Oh.
mic now and the DJ can't do it. I said, "All right, I'm about to do this thing here." One of the guys in the audience walks
No.
up stage with a knife in his hand, and he said, "F those
Oh.
other two, you better be funny."
Oh.
Here's the kicker: hour and 20 minutes,
Oh.
it goes well. An hour and 20 minutes of leaning into the DJ booth, and for some reason they're lapping it up.
Yeah, of
They're
course.
lapping it up, but I don't trust it because
Yep. And
all I
then
need
it's
is
Ice
one
City.
bad bit,
Yeah.
and And it's
With the knife.
you know what? I'll take the ice. I just don't want the guy with the that switchblade that
Yes.
it's like like one of those old switchblades. And you expect them. It was like
Yeah.
those the one that you spin and
Yeah. I
it
was
flips
just
out.
gonna
Like
say
I was waiting for him to go.
for it.
When
Yeah.
you're a jet
Oh,
all the way. I was waiting for that. It's like West Side, and we just kind of walked down. And they're like, yeah, clapping like nothing happened. They,
oh.
like it was a regular show. Yeah, you're good, Holmes. I'm like, yeah, right. The other two people are at the door, like in the running position. I grab the money from the booker, and he goes, I'm leaving too. So we all run out, get into our cars,
Oh.
and literally
Well, I
out of the
have one
parking lot.
more. Tell you one more. Bristol, PA. Bristol, PA, a motorcycle bar. A motorcycle bar
Oh
in
God.
Bristol. Before I get there, the announcer says, and we've got a woman comic coming, and she's going to light her tatas on fire. So now I get there, and I'm in a great mood. I'm ready to work. I've left. Now, understand, I'm a priest's sister. I've got a beautiful little daughter at home who's like 5 years old, sweet little thing. And my mother is like almost 80 in a nursing home. And and I'm gonna light my tatas on fire. Well, when I was told this, I didn't want to go on, but of course I had to in order to get paid. But I was so angry. And the audience, they didn't say or
Oof.
do anything, but they also didn't laugh. But I was in a vile humor. I was really, really mad, as you can imagine. And a comic I know worked there,
Ooh.
and he said
Ooh.
that I don't know if it was the manager or someone said, "Oh, Lizzie over there wants you to have sex with her in the back room." It's yeah, I know. It's like he didn't do it.
Jesus
It was
Christ.
like he was terrified. He was like, "Oh, mother of Jesus!" There would be a walking disease. It was a very motorcycle bar in Bristol.
Oh yeah. Oh God. See, as you know, uh, I've also played Bristol, and I was
Yep.
surprised at how many motorcycle bars that we all actually played. And what surprised me the most was how, in some cases, I did a show with
Yeah.
a friend of Chuck Carmen. We drove out to a gig in one of Chuck's cars, and Chuck's cars back then. Okay, and there's not. I'm not talking out of school. Chuck knows his cars sucked back then. Um, his car had his car. I had to go into the driver's side because the driver's side because the passenger side door was held closed with a metal. He had to roll down the back one. We took a metal hanger and stretched it
Oh,
out
that's great.
and tied the door closed. So that's and it's just like and
Oh no. The worst.
it's a Philly winter. So
Yeah.
so I think it's about
Oh.
19 degrees outside
Oh.
when the car is not moving. Okay.
Mm.
It was 19 degrees when you're standing there. And it's the middle of we pull up to the gig and I'm sitting there going, are we gonna die? Because these are the directions they gave us. I'm not seeing anything. And literally we
No.
turn right, it's a
No.
cornfield. It's a cornfield pitch. And I said, Chucky, look, you drive 15 minutes. If we don't see a building, spin it around. Spin the car around. Because it's like last thing
Right.
we need to do is like
Exactly.
two dumb bastards were trapped in the got caught in the cornfield. What as we and I was like, and then all of a sudden we see this light, and I'm sitting there going, I said, this is like a little bit too weirdly spiritual here, dude.
Yes.
And it turns out the
Oh,
BFW
that
hall
is great.
behind the cornfield, and I'm like, oh my, I said, you know what, this is scary as
Oh.
hell, but let's just walk in. I mean, what difference? I mean, if they're going to kill us, they're going to do it anyway. In the back of a
No.
cornfield, open it up. There's 400 people in there. Yeah, the door opens,
Oh.
just like that. We step in, they look
Oh
back.
my!
The comics are here, yeah.
Of course, 400 people in a cornfield.
And the show was fantastic.
That you were celebrity. You guys were celebrities.
Oh,
Yeah.
we that is no. What's really weird is when you go, and I'm pretty sure this is well, Pennsylvania is. I think Ohio is probably the same way. Is like when you get outside of the coast of. That's why
Right.
the states are very similar to the makeup of the country.
Right.
90% of the people on the coast and a little bit people spread out in this big area in the middle. If you leave Philadelphia or Pittsburgh, or if you leave the big cities in those states and you get to the middle of it, it's like you're from a big city. Oh, that must be great then.
Yeah.
Or you stink. You're from a big city. You suck. You get one of the two, and you never know. I don't see. I don't mind if I get you stink if there's
Right.
if I'm a small town somewhere, but it looks kind of like a city, so you can like get the hell out of there. When you're behind a
Because they'll
cornfield,
make you into a human scarecrow. It's frightening.
I'm here. I was like, I do not want people going. He was a very good man. He was a kind man. All we have left of him is his shoe and a microphone.
Yeah.
That's all we have to remember him by. Is that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, I don't want to be on Law and Order.
It was a comic.
You know, not like that.
Very funny comic, but they never
you know, in the criminal justice system. Yeah. Oh my God. Because and that's the funny thing about it too, and that's why when we go back to being a female comic, is it's even more perilous, I guess, in that particular situation.
I just
if you're a lady driving by yourself in these
it's
particular
like,
places.
Go ahead, see what'll happen to you.
Mm-hmm. You kind of had to.
Yeah.
I mean, because it's a tough city just in general, and but the thing was, but the good part about it is it makes you tough.
They let you alone.
And also, once they realize you're tough,
they let you
they
alone.
just sit back. Oh, cool, and they just sit back, and they love the crap out of you. And they leave, and it's beautiful. Now, what was now? Did you have what was your what do you consider your home club back in the day?
Back in the day, now it's the Comedy Cabaret in Doylestown is where I work.
Mm-hmm.
Well, once the pandemic is over, we'll be back there. But I guess it was the Comedy Works and all the Comedy Cabaret.
So mine was the Comedy Fact. We were we were across the street from each other, essentially. But we all play both. And as far and regarding that Doylestown comedy club was above Poco's, I think it was.
It's great. Love that place.
Still there? I got some of the best tapes I've ever gotten.
Right.
I put the tape in the back of that room. When you walk in, there's the door, and to the left of the door, there was like the sound booth or whatever, the sound board right there. And I mounted my camera above that, and I don't know how many thousands of dollars of shows I got off of those tapes because I kept using them.
Suburban clubs are amazing.
Mm-hmm. Did you make those trips to? Because a lot of Philly comics, we kind of realized that you could do what you needed to do because the area is so big. South Jersey, Baltimore, Washington, Virginia. Go to the west as far maybe Lancaster. You go to you have South Jersey. Actually, say Central Jersey. That area. That's got to be like it's got to be like 15, 17 million people in that area. So you can make a living right there. But did you ever get the feeling? Did you ever go up to New York?
And not make any money. That was
over,
the reason.
Even though we're so close by.
It all came down to supporting my family. So that I think I worked New York twice because there was no money. And I mean, if you got paid, it was $25, and it was like, nope, not doing it. And you couldn't work Boston. Boston was closed. Boston only hired Boston comics. But other than that, I basically. Did you work
I
Boston?
will not listen to these lies. No. A friend of mine, friend he goes, dude, don't even go up there. I says, he says, if you go up there and you're going to stay up there for a couple of years, fine. But if you're just going up there, don't waste your time. I said, you sure? I said, and at first I'm thinking,
Yeah,
and I'm going, well, this guy, I like this
right,
guy, and he's never lied to me. I don't think he's one of those guys that would, say, don't go up there because I'm keeping all the gigs to myself. He never did that. So I'm going, he must be telling the truth. And that's a bit of a hike to start all over
right.
again.
And what do you get out of it?
And it's not immediate, and it's not New York or Los Angeles. Not, yeah, essentially, you're just that's like a person who's a weather person going
Yeah,
from Philadelphia to
yeah,
Baltimore. It's like just stay in Philadelphia. It's a top 10 market.
yeah.
It's
That's
not
a
New
good
York or
point.
Los Angeles.
I
It's
used
a
to work
lateral
Hartford.
move.
I would do Hartford maybe 3 times a year. I worked basically Hartford to Richmond. Oh, trust me. If I
Mm.
live, I remember
Well, yeah,
one
they will
time I
pay
was
you
talking
though.
to a
So
hooker and I said, I don't
you
leave my
know,
house for under $100. And he laughed and I said, I'm not being funny. I needed to get paid to do the funny.
yeah, I told the person. I remember I got this is the first time I started uh, closing clubs. Obviously, this is 16 million years ago. And I called this gig, and when you work a lot,
Right.
after a while, you don't really have to audition or send tapes because they've heard your name so many
Yeah.
times. And sometimes they'll just call you and they can look, I heard of you. Give me you have March 15th and 16th. I called the guy. He had heard of me. I don't know why I didn't know this probably because I was stupid back then. I called him up and I'm about to give him the old, you go to a car dealership and you're about to give them the business. I'm buying this car for 25,000 and that's it. So I called this guy. I'm about to give this guy the business
Right.
now, and I had a number in my mind that I wanted.
Wow.
The number he offered was twice that number, and I was trying my
Wow.
best
Right.
to not young 20 something me to let him know that his number was stupid. you know, he goes, because I wanted
Oh,
200.
that's amazing. And you don't want to
He
appear
says I can only
impressed.
pay you four, and I'm sitting there, I'm going see, that's the good thing. See, kids, 'cause I have a third of my audience is young kids. You don't understand. See, back then there weren't cell phones or video cameras or video chatting. Because if there was,
Oh,
I
that's
might not have
true.
gotten the four hundred
Oh, that's
dollars because he would have seen the look on my face, and he would have seen me jump up and click my heels like in a Toyota commercial. you know, that was the weirdest thing. Now I want to ask you, Mary Fran, is when you went
Yes, the boomenial.
the blog that you have,
I am a millennial trapped inside a boomer's body.
the Boomenial, and that is where we get. Because I was
Yeah.
reading your blog when you told me about it, and I started this. I saw something that it brought up uh, memories because you were talking about world
Yes.
famous radio
Why I can never
broadcaster
forget Howard Stern.
Howard
Yes.
Stern,
That blog post.
and
No.
you could never forgive Howard Stern. And I think that it reminds
Well,
because you were
I could
talking.
tell almost,
You tell them
again, it
because
harks
it's better
back
coming from
to
you,
the
obviously.
harassment that female comics had to go through in those days. And I could tell you almost to the night when his program became syndicated in Philly because the guys in the audience became that much more hostile and because of his attitude. So that's basically it in a nutshell. And I talk about the kinds of things that we had to go through. We Women Comics. And I said that he's kind of he reminded me of George Wallace. He apologizes and has changed, but it's like it doesn't undo the years of hostility that I went through. And it affected my dating life because I was mad at men. Because at work, I would be treated so badly by so many of them that it was kind of difficult to date. But thankfully, that is no longer the case.
That is weird. It's amazing to me. Like when you see, I don't, I'm not going to get dive deep into politics, but when you see how people take the certain level of treatment and they kind of hold on to it until they get
That's
to a
well said.
specific
That
group
is exactly what it's like.
and
And
then
it's
they
like they
release
can
the
get away
venom.
with it because we're not going to beat them up. Like if they were to talk to a man like that, they'd get beaten up. But they're bigger.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's yeah. 'Cause I was wondering about that because I still remember. Um, it's amazing how you get so desensitized to things, and when you were talking about Howard Stern and I'm literally now just sitting there remembering some of the things, some of the jokes and the bits that were done on stage that at the time you just didn't think they were that big of a deal. And then as you get older, as soon as you become older, you start to experience more, you start to meet more people, and then you remember, obviously, I was too young, and I didn't write any of that crap because I was a kid, but and also as I was very very woke at 17, and but I remember because when I go back and I remember some of the jokes, and I look at and I remember some of the bits and some of the people that said some of the
Yeah.
bits, and there's a part of it that goes,
Yeah.
oh, ooh,
Yeah. I would stand back.
ee,
Yeah.
yow,
Yeah. I would stand at the back of the
I mean,
room
just imagine
and be like,
someone.
man, I
Oh,
got to go up
yo,
here and
yeah, go
cover
ahead. I'm
this
sorry.
stuff. I mean, it still
It's like when
goes
he was,
on. There's still a lot of
ooh,
unwoke material, shall we say. They'll call it cut. They think it's edgy, and it's like, oh, so you think it's edgy to put me
yeah,
down? That's your idea of edgy? I talk about death on stage. That's edgy. That's not easy. It's a lot easier to make fun of women or sex or being married or whatever than it is to get up and do some of the stuff I talk about. But they're edgy, edgy.
because yeah, it's well, that's the thing. I mean, it's one of those things where
Yeah,
the
that's
people that
well.
are actually edgy are
Yes,
edgy
yes,
people,
absolutely.
and a lot of times I would see people that, you know what I mean? I mean, and so when they would actually be edgy, that's when you get the people that know how to hit the topic. Well, okay, I'll
Yeah,
put it
like
this
Bill
way:
Burr
they hit the
on Saturday
topic
Night
with a
Live the other night. I
scalpel
don't know if you got to
and
see
not a
that. It was
grenade.
so good. And it's been a lot written about it this whole week.
He, oh
So
my
good.
goodness, yeah, my people were DMing me on Twitter. I was like, I saw it, and there were some people that were there were some people that were just I got people that were hitting me with DMs and my
Really?
direct messages on Twitter that were
That's
like
not
really
true at
long, like,
all.
and F
Oh
him,
no, I thought he was
he
such
hates
a
women,
target. Just
he
sit back and
sucks.
take talking to. Oh, I thought that was
And I'm going,
so
I said,
wonderful.
yeah, it's like, because the thing is, if you
Yes.
hit a topic that's tough with a scalpel, people, a lot of times people don't see what you're doing right away. They don't pick up on it. Because
Yeah.
nowadays everybody,
And
I mean, there's
and
plenty of
not what
things to
he
be
said.
outraged
Not
by.
what he said is not. I mean, there's so much
I
to be
mean,
outraged by. But he said stuff that made you think. That's exciting.
and I know some people, yeah, some people I saw that were like
Really.
big time comics were like really
Do you
super
follow?
mad.
Do you
like
follow Rich Scheidner
super mad. Yeah. And
on
I
Facebook?
was like,
I thought it, yeah, his writing is
yes. Oh, Rich, I saw
oh,
you on Facebook.
marvelous.
Yeah, I saw you. Yeah. The thing is, I didn't think that Canyon Man. I thought that I knew that he would. He's an old pro though, you know. I mean, and also he comes from that era. Also, if you really think about it, just imagine when the
Yeah.
comics that from our era would hang out at a diner or a bar, and
Yes.
people that don't do comedy don't know what it's like when comics who like each other are talking. See, like we're talking now on this show, and there's going to be a bunch of people that hear this. But the conversation we're having now is not the same conversation we
I
would
was just
have
going to say a diner.
if you, me, and a couple of
Yeah.
other friends were
In a
sitting at
diner
a
in Jersey.
diner
Yeah. There's a freedom. Again, it
and
goes
no one
back to
was
that
listening to
freedom
it.
we have.
you know,
Freedom.
yeah,
No.
yeah, they would
There that
not.
what is that
And it's not,
Seinfeld
you're not
film with
attacking
his
anybody, but you're
like
just talking freely.
there's a wonderful Seinfeld movie. I can't think what it's called. It's a kind of a documentary. Oh man, that really
Oh, I
shows what
have it. I
it's
bought it.
like.
It's called Comedian.
Mm.
That I literally watched that
Oh,
thing.
it's just that's
I've seen
us.
it
That's our
well over
lives.
a couple of hundred, well over 200 times already.
Yeah.
Yeah, I bought the DVD. Did you? I saw it's on Netflix now. If anybody wants to see it, but the thing
Oh,
is,
I'd like to
it
see that. I'll
doesn't
have to.
have it doesn't have the backup commentary with Colin Quinn. Yeah, with Colin Quinn
Really?
and
Oh,
Jerry Seinfeld are doing a second. They have a second track with
I'll
commentary
put
on
it
it,
on my Christmas list.
and
That
it
sounds
makes that
awesome.
movie. Oh my God, get the DVD. You got to get it. Oh my good, if it still exists, because nobody's selling DVDs anymore. But it's
Oh,
like
wow.
it takes a movie that you already like, and the insight and the inside jokes and the things that they're having conversation
Yeah.
underneath, and I'm going. And then when you watch the movie again without it, just like I still love this movie, but I need to have access to that. It's like if you go to a restaurant and you get the best cake in the world, and you're like, and they give you a
Oh
couple scoops
no.
of ice cream.
No,
This is
no, no. I got to
fantastic.
have it.
And you go back and you're
Yeah.
going, yeah, we don't have ice cream anymore. What? I need the ice cream, damn it. That's what it's like, you know. Now, now this is another thing I saw, and I saw you did
Yep.
a piece on your blog about dating
Dating is
at
horrible.
70.
It combines two awful things. It's like an interview with condoms.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
I just
Congratulations. When is your birthday?
I turned 52 this month.
Mine was the ninth. I just turned 70 on
Uh,
Saturday.
and
I mean Friday.
the 27th of this month.
Yeah, it's cool.
Happy,
I like getting older. I have so much
happy
freedom.
slightly after your birthday to you as well.
It's just, no one tells you this that it's that getting older is cool. I can sleep when I want. I don't have to go to some stupid day job I hate. I always say basically I'm a
Mm.
15-year-old boy with her own apartment and no adult to harass me.
Oh my God.
It's awesome. I do
Okay, I'm gonna have to
stand-up.
call
I do
the child
stand-up. I
services,
write poetry. I
and
write blog. It's just it's amazing.
I'm pretty
I
sure
had
something
no
is
idea that this was in store for me. Uh,
now hold it a
yes.
second. I'm not
Oh,
moving
they're
off this
horrible.
dating thing because you were talking about dating apps.
They're just they're horrible.
Dating
I mean, oh God, I hate them. I
apps.
tried to go out with a
Horror
couple
stories.
guys my own age, but I'm always afraid that they're gonna like collapse right in front of me because they're so old. I don't want to have to take care of some old ass.
Yes.
Oh,
Now,
definitely. I
how
mean, I've
young
talked
do
about this
you
age
go?
too.
Now
Well,
that's because
I will
you
not.
outed
I don't
yourself.
want to be ridiculous.
You
So you do get on these sites, you get like guys that are like 30 hitting on you, and it's like, no, what is wrong with you? Why are you doing this? And one guy was writing to me, he said, well, I have mommy issues, but that's that. I'm like, no. But I mean, some of these guys, I'm old enough to be their grandmother, and it's like I didn't know that that was out there, and that's a little too much for me.
How quickly did you hit the? Don't you? Isn't there one a dating app where
You
you
swipe
or
on
maybe that is that a
Tinder and
functionality of
Bumble.
all of them where you
You
maybe
swipe
you swipe
left.
up
If
or
you're
right to
not
get rid of the
interested, and you
person
swipe
or
right, you are. Bumble.
what?
Bumble was created by the
What was the
ex-girlfriend
other one?
of the
Tinder and
guy
what was the
from
other one?
Tinder. And Bumble sucks. There's a
Bumble.
lot of
Oh,
both of them I don't like because there's a lot of scammers on there. Guys, they claim they work on oil rigs or they're in the army and they can't meet you. They're engineers, and I'm going to be at sea soon, so I won't be able to see
yeah.
you. And then about 2 months later, they'll ask you for an Amazon gift card because they can't buy what they need to get, and get me that, and blah blah blah. That's a huge thing. And but Bumble, their selling point is that it's in the woman's hands. It's just a gimmick. It's just a gimmick. And it's like a lot of these guys, they just text you and you never meet them.
It, the thing I find astounding about that whole situation is they're saying they can't meet, they can't do this, they can't do that. I'm going, you're holding a phone with a camera on it.
But they don't.
It's this is not 1979. You literally have
Yeah.
it's a phone with a high definition camera where you can do click click and you can be talking directly to each other. And I want to see some ship. I want to see a ship behind you or some airplanes. If you're in the army, I better not see a damn chevron station with a
Well, what
chevron
they
shirt on.
are,
And there's nothing wrong with that, but just admit it.
they're
You know,
17-year-olds in
just,
Nigeria
you know,
pretending to
I
be
just have always found
60-year-olds
it fascinating.
that work on an oil rig. It's amazing. I mean, it's an entire
Mm.
industry. It's a billion-dollar industry. The scammers. It's amazing. Yeah, they do.
They have to hit so many people. And if you just keep drilling away, even if you hit that magic, and then everybody knows that the conversion rate is usually 1% for everything. You get 1% of the people. Amazon gift card.
Oh,
Oh,
some of
you
them
don't want to
do.
do
I had
that?
one
I'll
guy.
send you
I When I
cash.
first started on these dating things, it was actually on Instagram that I would answer
You go.
someone. And one guy said that his son was in California and had his little daughter, who's 5, just had to go in the emergency room, and his medical insurance card wasn't working. Could I give him $500? And I mean, I wouldn't give $500 to my daughter. No, that's true. I would give her $500. But ridiculous. It's just amazing. And I was so naive. I was like, but I knew immediately when he asked me for money that this was fake. Yep,
I'm sitting there going.
500 bucks.
So he literally went straight to $500. I mean, I used to work at for it was a company that worked for PBS, and we would call people who were viewers of PBS, and they had a thing called first ask, second ask, third ask, fourth
Yeah, there's
ask. The fourth ask was like $100, but they started out at 15 and worked up to 100.
now these scammers
You
start
can't just call up.
high,
Hi, I'm calling from PBS.
and they
Give me
figure
$100
that
now, now,
older women
now.
are lonely, and what they do is they love bomb you. Have you heard of love bombing? They love bomb you, and they say all these things that they think you want to hear. It's
Mm-hmm.
fascinating.
It's just,
Yes,
I get a really big kick out of watching
I do.
people who get scammers get
I
caught.
do too.
I
Yeah,
find that fascinating, and I love it. I love it, and I love it all.
yeah.
Now, I want to the last thing I wanted to touch on with you is I planned on asking you about this earlier, but we got into some good stuff there. So this is what I wanted to get to actually near the beginning
Oh,
instead of at the end here. COVID
I last
19 and
yeah, I
comedy.
last worked on March 7th. I haven't worked since then.
Exactly. And it has blasted everybody. But what I've seen is, and I wanted to ask you about this, is I saw comics, and I got asked to do a couple of these things, but it's like, I got a couple podcasts and
I
whatnot.
can't
I'm busy.
imagine that.
Um,
It's I just
the
can't. I mean, I'm
Zoom
stuttering.
shows.
How does that even work?
Thank you for see. People have been saying to me, "Come on, man, you got to do Zoom shows, man. You got to do." And to me, I'm going. Do you want me to stand in my office with a microphone in my
No,
hand
there's no
in front of
way.
my
You
laptop
need
and
to
tell
have that
jokes to
feeling
six,
where you sense the
seven squares
audience.
on the screen?
I mean, I'm seeing some of these clubs do it outdoors, and even that would be difficult, but it's work.
And
You can feel the audience. You can sense what they're and you can see their faces. I always have to see the faces of the people. Yeah.
yeah, so I'm seeing some of the places kind of open back up a
Yes.
little bit, like
Helium is and
in
Soul
Philly,
Joel's
like I think Helium is doing some
yeah,
stuff
some of them are.
outside. Is it Helium? Yeah, Helium
But I was talking to
doing
the
some stuff out.
yeah.
I've never been there though.
I was I was talking to the owner of the comedy cabaret where I
Yeah,
work in
I've never.
Doylestown, and he was saying that the how it is here,
I'm saying, go ahead.
once the state of Pennsylvania allows bars to open, then they'll open up again. Yes, because it'll probably be socially distanced. I don't know how that'll
That is
work.
gonna be that is gonna be really weird though. You know, could yeah. I mean, it's like yeah. I'm just wondering, not to be weird or anything, but it's like, listen, I'm gonna watch some of my
Yeah.
colleagues uh, go go out there and test the waters, um, and then I'll slide back in there because I had planned on starting to do stand up regularly again, and literally the new plague showed up and kind of I
Yeah.
just blocked everything for the past 7 8 months. I'm going. It's
Yeah.
like I'm sitting there going, I got this new material. This is gonna be great.
Yeah.
Can't wait
I
to work
have
this material
like
out.
rewritten
Everybody,
my whole
stay home.
act. I
Don't
have
touch
all this new
anything.
stuff. I don't even
Recycle
remember
air
my
in your
act
own
at
mouth.
this point. Yeah. The whole thing is
Isn't that
the
weird?
best is when you laugh at it. You're like, oh,
You
that's
know, when
actually
when you
funny.
when you go look at stuff you wrote and you're going, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Do you ever feel? I felt like an idiot. I found a old tape
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
a couple of sets I did back in the '80s, and I'm looking at this child that looks like me, right? You know, and some clothes I would not wear if someone had if someone had a gun on me. Put this shirt on. Nah, just shoot me, bro. No, I'm not putting that shirt on again. I'd rather die, bro. And I'm watching him. He was pretty good. And but I'm looking at these jokes and I'm going. I know I wrote them, but they're 30 years old. So
It's just weird. I
and every
have
once in a while,
one
like out
joke
of
in
an
my
hour, I
act
went,
that I
oh,
have
I remember
had
that one.
my entire career.
That one I remember.
Catholics were taught. Let me see if I can remember. See, I told you I don't remember my own act. We're taught never to have Catholics were taught never to have sex until after the first baby. That's been in my act for 35 years. 35 years, but that's the only. There's one I wish I could
Yes,
bring back. It was like a woman's true
I
religion
remember
is
it.
food,
I remember
and
it.
she meditates and she says yum. Now that's from 35 years ago.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't. I can't. They're horrible.
Isn't it weird if when you go back and look at your old jokes and you're going, I can't do it. I can't. I
Yeah.
literally there's a box. There's a big
Yeah.
box right next to
It's
my desk. Right, it's like
terrifying.
a big box of jokes from over the decades. I won't open that box. You
Literally.
could put gold bars in that box, and I
Just,
wouldn't know about it
yeah. You can't even
because I'm
like
not looking at
when
that
I
stuff. Because
look
it's
at
like,
the, as you say,
yeah,
the clothes I
it's like
wore, the
I,
hair I had. I had 80s big blonde hair. I was a
I am
blonde. Now
not
I have
looking at that
silver
stuff.
hair. And oh man, I look back at these. I have videos, and occasionally, maybe every 20 years, I'll look at the videos, and it's just, who is that woman? Yes.
Well, guess what? I don't need the videos because I remember you
Farrah
with the with
Fawcett
the
used
with
to
this
call
with
me
the
an
uh
Oprah.
the hairspray hair.
Oh man.
I was actually
Yeah.
there. I, re- I remember the hair that everybody had back then. Unfortunately, I was
Oh man,
swift
I
enough to
look and
have close
it's
cut hair.
genuinely funny,
So
and you just think.
that's
I
the only
remember
thing that's
thinking
not
I looked
embarrassing about
good,
the
and
old
now I
tapes is
look
my
at it and I'm
haircuts.
like, how was I that deluded? But
Hmm.
I would
You
not
know, it'd
like
be
you as a
great
blonde. No,
is
no,
if
no, no,
you
no.
wore one of my old shirts and I had that haircut. Now that would be
I
good.
don't know how I hair so big. It was just so big. Yeah, I guess
Well,
it was.
it's half a can of hairspray, just like everybody else. Yeah, it was just like everything else. It was a half can of hairspray.
Well, that was fun.
Well, Mary Fran, we have come to the conclusion of this glorious episode. I am glad I got you. I am glad I got you on there. Now, what I want you to do me a favor. Now, I have already found. I have your
Excellent.
websites and things of that nature, your blog, your Facebook, and your Instagram. So I'm going to put them in the show
Oh no,
notes
I can't. Pressure.
uh, for
I don't
everybody.
have any
But
gigs
if there's anything
because
you
of
want to say to the
COVID.
audience, this would
But
be the
come to
time. Say it to them. Let
blog.
them know
Come
where
to
you're going
my
to be, what
blog,
you're
the
going to
Boom
do.
Ennial, BOOMENNIAL, theboomennial.com.
Yeah.
And I every 2 weeks I publish something new, and on Instagram I have some fashion and some
Hmm.
poetry and
Now,
links to my blog.
and folks, like I said, Mary Fran stuff will be in the show notes. So no matter what player you're going to listen to this show
Excellent.
in, just scroll
Oh,
down into the show notes, and I'll have
thank you.
the links to all of her
Yes.
websites there. Okay,
Uh,
Mary Fran,
that's
thank
so
you.
cool. Thank you
It was
so
great
much.
talking to
Thanks
you.
for inviting me.
I love catching up with old friends, especially people I love and dig and think are hilarious.
Good. Thank you so much.
And thank you
Have
for
a
coming.
good
I
one.
will. Well,
Bye
obviously, we'll
now.
harass each other on Facebook, but all right, everybody. Thank you for listening. Now that was fun. I told you. Huh? Have I failed you yet? No. Will I fail you? Absolutely not. And I'll be honest with you. I have other stories of gigs that absolutely sucked. And I will tell you about those on later episodes when it's just me talking to you. Thank you guys very, very much for listening. Thank you for all the new listeners and the new countries listening. Thank you. Much love to all of you. And I will see you again next time. Much love to you. Take care.